You guys go for it.
All right, guys, this week we wanted to come talk to you about broadheads. You know, every day in the shop, me and Mark get on this topic with customers, and it's a debate that will probably never be settled of fixed blade mechanicals, which one do you shoot? And every year there is a new broadheads that come out each and every year that we see on the market. We can't keep up with it sometimes. There's guys that will come in here and tell me, hey, have you seen this new broadhead or this new broadhead? And half the time I don't even know about it.
We're finding out about them before we are.
Yeah.
That's what it seems like.
Yeah, exactly. So, but you know, me and Mark, not only for our personal setups, we have a ton of experience with tuning, getting these things dialed in, but also working with customers. And the advantage we have with that is because we work with, I mean, thousands of customers a year on this issue, is realizing everyone's setup's a little bit different, and what works for you might not work for me, or vice versa. But when it comes to broadheads, for me, I will say that I'm a mechanical guy more than I ever have been in the past. Fixed blades just don't really have a place for me anymore in my quiver. I don't know how you feel about that, but
yeah, I haven't shot a fixed blade for, Valkyrie.
Yeah.
I don't know, 2019 is the first time I tried it.
Yeah.
I haven't shot one since then.
So, and through the years, I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years. In the past, I've had a lot of kills with fixed blade broadheads. Been able to get them to fly accurately, fly true. The more that I've hunted, the more animals I've harvested, the fixed blades just don't really do it for me anymore. And with proper tuning and setup, like I do like the fact that I can get them to fly accurately and get them to fly how I want, but mechanicals, I feel like they're more forgiving. They fly better in the wind. And the biggest thing I say for me is just the wound channel they create when I get there.
Yeah, wound channel, blood trails. I mean, if we don't have blood on the ground, what good's it doing us?
Yeah,
that's the hardest thing we fight. When it comes to that side of things, I mean, between the two of us, we're 100 bow kills.
Yeah, probably
maybe a little more. It's not just a little sample set from, okay, well, we've killed one with this, or we got a huge sample size of different animals and at different yardages and arrow setups that we've killed stuff with, and we always go back to a mechanical broadhead.
Yeah, and I would say too, I used to have that mentality. I'd almost call it old school mentality, where like I want a pass through. Like a pass through to me mattered so much to be able to get that arrow all the way through the animal. I want a hole on both sides, and I don't really prescribe to that anymore. Like I'm fine if I don't get pass throughs with some of the broadheads I'm hunting with now. If I don't get a full pass through, I'm kind of okay with that, because I know the wound channel that I'm creating is so large and so massive that I'm actually okay if the broadhead stays in the animal most of the time now.
For sure. Well, if it is still stuck in it, we'll just pop this one open. If it's in there and it's every little movement it's making, it is still causing hemorrhage.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to sit and cut. That just moving around is going to keep the wound channel open.
For sure. Yeah. So, one of the biggest things that I do see, though, that really bugs me when it comes to broadheads is when guys try to shoot a fixed blade, like this slick trick here. And there's a lot of good fixed blades out there that I've shot. Like, there's a lot of good ones for guys that are still fixed blade fans. Great. I tell guys, when it comes to the selection of broadheads we carry at the shop, I don't care what fixed blade you shoot. I think to me, they're all about sixes. And I've been able to get pretty much any fixed blade I've ever wanted to fly true and fly accurate to my field tips. It's just knowing what to adjust on my bow, maybe the arrow spine. I know you've been playing around with a lot of arrow spines lately, and even fletching combo.
Yep.
But I tell guys, there's not a single fixed blade on that wall that I cannot get to shoot with my field tips.
I can get everyone to a certain distance for sure.
Yeah. And what I did for years with hunting Utah, because we were able to use both mechanical and fixed, I would tune my bow every single season to where a field tip, a fixed blade, and then, like this BMP practice head from G5, I could get all three to hit the same point of impact for me, or a good size group to say 80, even 100 yards, to where it didn't matter which one of those I ripped out of my quiver. I felt very confident that the end result, the arrow placement, was going to be where I want it to be. But one of the biggest pet peeves that I have, and I see this from a lot of customers, is if guys that are coming in and go, man, I can't get a fixed blade to shoot. It's all over the place. There's groups all over there. And a lot of those guys' solution is to go to a mechanical. And to me, I hate that. That really bugs me, because they're not fixing the core of the problem of why is that broadhead not shooting accurately. And what I see happen a lot of times is, heck, I talk broadheads every day in my life in this building. Every day it gets brought up. Every day. And I will say this, from just years of doing this, 20 years experience and hearing customers' feedback, I would say the number one complaint that I hear about mechanicals is bad penetration. I hear that more than anything. Guys will shoot an animal with a mechanical, they don't like the penetration, and the first thing they want to do is go back to their fixed blade broadhead, right? And you know, I know I use this analogy a lot here in the shop. You probably hear it 10 times a day from me, but arrow delivery to the target matters a whole heck of a lot when it comes to the penetration of an arrow. And it's not necessarily the weight of the arrow. A lot of guys think they get bad penetration. Every single season, guys will come in here after the hunt, say October, and go, man, I want a heavier arrow. We hear it every single season. And the analogy that I use for guys that are watching this on YouTube, imagine if I took a nail that was straight right here, and I put another nail next to it, and I bend it. It's a bent nail, and I give someone a sledgehammer. When you hit the nail that's straight perfectly, it's going to drive into the wood. It's going to go, and we all know how a lot cleaner. But I tell guys all the time, if I put a nail that's bent and it's rolled to the side, and I give you a sledgehammer, it doesn't matter how hard you hit that bent nail. We know what's going to happen. The nail's going to roll to the side. Your penetration is going to really sacrifice from that. And I think what's happening, and I see this happen a lot, is guys that get bad penetration is because their arrow delivery is not clean enough. The arrow's not impacting the animal or the target straight, and their penetration is now sacrificed because of that. So I feel like for us, and we preach this a lot here at Wilde Arrow, arrow delivery, getting the arrow to hit the animal or target perfectly straight matters more for penetration than necessarily the weight of the arrow. And there's several factors that we, take into account with that. Whether it's the paradoxing of the arrow, even arrow recovery out of the bow. I know, you've been playing around with a bunch of different vane combos.
Yeah, vane combos, spines. I mean, I've dove down a pretty big rabbit hole lately trying to reinvent the wheel. And it's an accuracy based thing. And the cleaner we can get the arrow to come out and tune more consistently every time, we're going to get better penetration downrange. Yeah,
and I feel like what's happening, and I see this with a lot of customers I work with, is if a guy doesn't have his bow absolutely perfectly tuned, maybe he's not breaking the perfect shot on target, I actually recommend a little bit more vane, more helical for that customer, especially guys that are hunting elk and fixed blades. I actually recommend like a hybrid 26 and a true helical. And the reason we do that is we want that guy's arrow, especially short range on elk shots, I want that arrow to come out of the bow and stabilize as fast as possible, because that's going to maximize his penetration. And guys don't realize this, that an arrow that's paradoxing or not flying accurately at 20 yards is not going to penetrate well, regardless of the weight of the arrow.
For sure.
But you hear these stories all the time from customers that come in and go, man, I shot an elk at 60 or 70 yards and I blew through it. They come in all excited as they got a full pass through. And what these customers aren't realizing is at 60 or 70 yards, at that point, that arrow is stabilized so perfectly in flight, it's hitting like a hypodermic needle, or back to that straight nail analogy, right? And so guys that are, out there hunting, you're shooting a lot of elk, maybe short range, I recommend, hey, run a little bit bigger vane, a little bit more helical, get that arrow to stabilize a little faster and sooner out of your bow. Now, the slight disadvantage I see for a lot of customers, though, is long distance now.
Right? Start running into parachute problems.
Parachutes, or even push in the wind, right?
For sure.
So like that Easton 5.0 you're holding there, you're running that 4-fletch hybrid 23, a little bit of helical on there. A lot of guys like this vane combo, and at distance, this shoots amazing in the wind. Very low drag, so at distance, you're not getting that drag to pull the arrow. But the reason I think this vane setup and combo works so well for you with a broadhead is because of how perfectly you have your bow tuned and how good you are breaking shots on animals.
For sure.
But for guys that aren't breaking good, clean shots, or the bow's not tuned, this is probably not the vane combo to run. But there's a lot of factors when it comes, I think, to broadhead flight, whether it's the spine of the arrow, the tune of the bow, and then how much control, how much vane are we putting on the back of the arrow to get it to stabilize and shoot accurately there.
Yeah, so the amount of vane, the amount of blade surface area that we have, not every broadhead's created equal. Like this mega meat, that's about our favorites.
By far.
Between the two of us, we've shot a handful of animals now in the last couple of years with it. And
what's funny about the mega meat too is when it first came out, I was even hesitant or scared to kind of shoot it. That 3-blade 2-inch hole for me, it sounded like too much. I went on a hunt down in Texas. We were shooting javelinas, which is the perfect, those hunts in Texas are the perfect opportunity to go test your equipment and test some broadheads, right? But I will say, after my experience of hunting with these and seeing the wound channels they've created, I'm sold. This is my broadhead. This is what my favorite thing to put in my quiver every year. The first 3 animals I harvested with this broadhead were good quality textbook behind the shoulder shots, and all 3 of those animals tipped over within eyesight. Like they just couldn't run far enough that I didn't even have to blood trail them at that point. They were just dead. And I would say this is probably our #1 selling broadhead in the shop,
without a doubt.
Yeah.
By quite a bit too. I don't think it's the perfect head for everybody's setup. There's definitely there is an energy side of things
For sure.
that we got to look at. We're not going to go stick a woman that's only been doing this a couple years shooting 45 pounds. But if you're producing some decent energy, then
decent draw length, probably close to 70 pounds. Maybe an arrow that's over 400 grains. Yeah, probably a good setup.
Without a doubt.
And I would say too, the amount of feedback we've had on the Mega Meat as far as guys harvesting elk with them too.
It's mind blowing.
Yeah, a lot more guys are running these on elk. Big cut mechanicals on elk. Just heck, 5 years ago, guys weren't even willing to try it. And now the positive feedback we're hearing on this. But going back to when we talk, mechanicals, fixed blades, all these factors, it's confusing for guys, right? Like that's why we have that conversation every day in here trying to explain things. But I'd say the biggest takeaway that I tell guys all the time with this is #1, you got to choose the right mechanical, right? And everyone has their favorite. We could do a poll on this and see what guys are shooting, but I will say, based off of not only our personal experience, but because we talk to literally thousands of guys, we have that conversation every day in the shop, we hear the feedback of what broadheads are working, what broadheads aren't working on a consistent basis, right? And we take everything with a grain of salt because not every shot you send or shoot is going to be absolutely perfect. There's always variables with that. But I will say for me, I look for mechanical for #1 is the length of the ferrule. And I think that's a big thing that gets overlooked when it comes to broadheads is the longer the broadhead gets in front of your arrow. If you compare, for guys at home, if you're watching this, go look at the length of your field tip and then go look at the length of your broadhead. And most of the time, the broadhead's going to be significantly longer than the field tip is.
Most of them are at least double.
Yeah, at least double. And what guys don't realize is changing the length of your broadhead can change where your FOC sits on the shaft, and it actually changes the arrow's paradoxing coming out of the bow. And the reason I bring that up is there's been some broadheads that I've tested in the past that were mechanicals. They're supposed to, everyone assumes because it's a mechanical, it's going to fly great and shoot well. Man, I've completely missed the target with some mechanicals in the past.
For sure.
Not even close.
Yeah, I've had some of these completely plain off. I mean, not even in the same zip code.
Yeah. And you're thinking, man, it's a mechanical. It shouldn't do that, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so I would say for me, the biggest thing that I like to do each and every season is one, for guys that are shooting fixed blades, if your fixed blades aren't flying accurately, you don't like how they're shooting, do not just go to a mechanical because what you're doing is putting a Band-Aid on a problem somewhere. Fix the problem first. If you can get your fixed blades to fly true and fly accurately, that means your bow setup, your arrow spine, your fletching combo, all those things are working well in your favor. And then the end result is when you don't, for me, when I tune every year before I go hunting, I'm still going to tune my bow to a fixed blade every season. And I do that as a confidence thing to go, man, if I can get my fixed blades to fly how I want, the likelihood, and I still double check these, but the likelihood that this is going to not only fly in group where I want, but the other thing too is the back to the penetration we talked about, right? So if you're shooting a fixed blade, you're getting a shotgun effect downrange, they're just not grouping well, you kind of get them all over the target. When you go to a mechanical, it's going to hide that. Most of the time it's going to hide it. Guys are going to get a better result, better grouping downrange. However, you're still not correcting perfect arrow flight. And so for guys that go, man, I can't get I can't get a fixed blade to fly, I'm going to shoot a mechanical because I get the accuracy. I think what happens is guys will put that on front of their arrow and their groups improve, but the arrow is still hitting at those slight angles because the arrow is still flexing, bending, not recovering properly. And those are the customers that come back in and go, man, I don't like a mechanical because I got poor penetration when I shot a deer and elk with it last season. So what I tell guys to do is go look, get your bow perfectly tuned, get a fixed blade to shoot and fly accurately for you. And I don't really care which one it is. I think they're all 6s to me when it comes to fixed blades. But if I can get everything to fly accurately, I know the moment that I shoot a mechanical that's flying true and good at an animal, that's going to maximize my penetration. And even if I don't get a full pass through, I'm okay with that. As long as I'm getting into the vitals, it's going to get the job done. We got a good selection here. The T2s from G5 have been popular. I'd say the Mega Meat and Dead Meat are still probably our #1 selling broadheads out there. And then, the new Beast. Beast Broadheads have been really popular. Mark's playing around with the new Trump edition. Blake had a good question on those earlier. Did they have a tariff on those because they're Trump?
Yeah. Guess we're going to find out.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, guys, when it comes to broadheads, there's so many rabbit holes you can go down. It's very confusing, especially if you're brand new into the sport of what broadhead should I shoot and why. Best thing to do is bring your setup down to the shop. Let us look at it for you. We'll give you some recommendations based off of maybe what hunt you're going on and maybe where your skill level's at. It gets confusing for customers that even been doing it for a long time, get confused on which one to use. But man, new guys into the sport especially,
they're lost.
They're lost. Yeah.
You can see the wall behind us. We got a gamut of different broadheads.
Yeah. So a lot of good ones to choose from. But I would say, for us, we're recommending broadheads not only based off our personal experience, but customer feedback. I've been wanting to do this for years. Is literally put a whiteboard here with a poll. And as customers come in, go, what's your favorite broadhead? And watch them check the box. But what we do is we just kind of base it off of ourselves, right? We know every year, with a dead meat and mega meat, I would say we sell more of these than all the other broadheads on the wall combined. And it's a large margin too.
For sure.
And so when we consistently hear good quality feedback, guys are loving it, coming back in with a good success. There's other broadheads that we sell where I call it the 50-50. Half the guys come in and shoot it, love it, swear by it, and the other half of the customers hate it, will never run it again. Yep. And so, there's a lot of factors to take into consideration. But, if you have any questions on broadheads, guys, I know this is kind of just scratching the surface with this video here, but come in, bring your setup. Me and Mark or one of the guys here, we're more than happy to sit down, spend the time with you to talk broadheads, look at your setup, and give you the perfect recommendation for what you should use this hunting season.
And if you are struggling with broadhead flight, we do have a broadhead target in the range. Yeah. We'll jump back in the back with you. We'll shoot a couple. Between all of us, we got drawers full of broadheads, tackle boxes full of broadheads.
Yep.
We can go in the back, spend a little bit of time, and help make a couple little adjustments with you as well.
Yeah, and do it sooner rather than later, guys. Don't wait till July or August to start shooting broadheads. At that time, we're way too busy to spend a lot of time with you. And two, you're into crunch time. So, for, for most customers, I tell them, honestly, start tuning broadheads in June.
I'm already shooting broadheads.
Yeah, you're already shooting broadheads now. Give yourself plenty of time and, don't just assume that you went out and shot one broadhead with one arrow that it hit. I think we should probably do another video talking about the variables of every arrow in your quiver.
For sure.
Right? So we'll do another video on that. If you like this video, comment below. Let us know what your setup is, what broadhead choice. If you're struggling with broadhead flight, comment below. Me and Mark will go read the comments and we'll answer you back on there and maybe give you some recommendations, what would help you out. If you're local, you're close to the shop, and you're having broadhead issues, come into the shop. Let's look at your setup. We'll get you help you get dialed in for this hunting season.
Do you think these broadheads were terrible?
Can I finish my conversation? My time?
Pretty fucking funny. Just saying.